Hello, everybody. How are you? Bobby Piton here with day 27 of 365 on a Friday. And even though it's a Friday, it doesn't stop the agreement to do the Bible in the next 365 days. So here I am because I have committed to doing this for 365 days. And as such, I am here to continue my commitment. Hey, Jim, how are you? I hope everybody is having a wonderful evening as well. I was talking to some folks today about the greatest book ever written. Let me see here. And I'm really grateful that as many people as make time to log in and listen to this each night. I think it's wonderful, and I hope everybody's getting as much out of this as I am, and so forth. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It's much appreciated. And today was really interesting. I really enjoyed today's readings. I'm looking forward to sharing them. I am just posting them in a couple of spots, and I am going to be ready to go. So hello, Cheryl. Hello, Celicia, Leanne, Donna. And then we have Jules. I believe Jules, yep. And so let me see here. Just one other spot, and we are going to be good to go. Okay. So I hope everybody had the chance to, listen to it or read it online. A new version. It's the Bible in 365 days. I think it's a wonderful version. And today we went over Exodus. We went over Exodus 4, and this was the sign of Lord's Prayer or Lord's power. And in particular, Moses was called to do some things for God, for Jesus Christ, and he was asked to step up and do what he needed to do, perform some miracles. And obviously Moses was reluctant. Sound familiar for anybody else out there who gets called by God to do something, doesn't want to do it, tries to put it off as long as humanly possible, and wants to see some signs and show some signs to people so that maybe Moses didn't want to feel like he was losing his mind. And sure enough, God told Moses what to do: take a staff, throw it on the ground, have it turn into a snake, turn around, and I think he turned the river red with blood. And he went to the Pharaoh and told the Pharaoh, look, you need to let the people go, let the Hebrews, the Jews go. The Pharaoh didn't take too kindly to this and decided to punish everybody who believed in the message of Moses, because Moses did prove himself to the leaders or the elders of Israel, and they did put their faith in him, that he was in fact representing God's will. And sure enough, the Pharaoh basically said, look, since they were slaves, they needed straw to make bricks out of clay, and the Pharaoh took away their ability to have straw to make the bricks and had them still produce the same number of bricks by going and finding the straw on their own, knowing that he's trying to set them up to fail. So a couple things. Let's just take a pause on this part. So the Pharaoh, which represents, in my mind, the Pharaoh doesn't just represent the Pharaoh in the story. It represents unchecked power throughout civilizations, throughout history. Right now, we have a government who, in a sense, does a lot of things that hurt the people of the United States, as well as other nations around the world. The government is doing the similar type of thing, where it wants the people to produce more bricks, while it takes away the straw that produces the bricks. So how is our government taking away the straw that produces the bricks in our society? The government is taking away the straw by damaging people's connection to God. That's one way in which it's destroying the straw, the very fiber of what makes us strong enough to take care of and do all the work that needs to be done. So that's one way in which the government is removing our straw, trying to eliminate and crush people's faith in God. Now, it turns out that each of us intrinsically is wired from our very soul, our very being, our very existence, to know that we're connected to a higher power. We have an antenna, I so to speak. I kind of use that as an analogy, folks. I'm not saying, maybe it's literal. I don't know if it is. I'm just telling you, the analogy that I like to use is each of us is like a receptor. When we meditate, when we pray, when we reflect, we have the ability to connect with God and realize that the true source of our power. And when you do that, at least for me, and I hope everybody else experiences it in their own way, maybe they have a similar experience to what I'm describing. They can connect in, and it's bliss. When I remember reading about Hinduism with regards to the concept of nirvana, that you feel nothingness. And when you feel that sense of nothingness, where you have no attachment to your physical body, to anything that's in existence on this planet, that you are just it's completely dark and void, kind of like the way the Bible describes it. In the beginning, there was, everything was void. That sensation, those initial words in the Bible, when I reach a state of what I would call nirvana from the standpoint of how Hinduism describes it, but in my own faith as a Christian, that's what it truly feels like. It feels you can just disappear, and you could disappear and you would be at complete peace. And even though you're here, that's the irony. So you're right here. But yet when you go into that state of prayer, that state of clearing your mind, emptying everything out, and reconnecting with the source of all life, of everything that runs this universe, it's a pretty amazing thing. And I do believe it recharges you. So when I'm listening to this Exodus story of Exodus 4 and Exodus 5, and I hear what they're trying to do, they're trying to extinguish, minimize, corrupt, infiltrate, I guess send a virus into our connection to the unlimited power that exists for each and every one of God's children, that we can tap into at the drop of a hat. We can tap into it during the day. We can tap into it at night when we go to bed. And that is the straw that makes our bricks in life solid and good foundations for building other things throughout our life. And so Pharaoh trying to behave, and this is the way pharaohs used to think back then. Pharaohs would think that they were gods, and they were somehow every other human being was beholden to them. So these false prophets, these false gods among us back then, they exist all over the place today in different forms. So thousands of years later, the more things change, the more they seem to stay the same. I think, isn't that the line? The more things change, the more they stay the same. They just have better tools to shoot off their mouth and basically push their propaganda onto human beings everywhere. And what we need to do is recognize that these are very sick people. They are possessed by different types of demons, taking, doing things for their own glory, and I think that they're very sick. And this sickness spills over into society in a lot of different forms, a lot of different ways. And it's kind of bizarre, like while we're on this topic of how a lot of people tend to feel at times, and maybe it's because of the environment that we live in. Um, there's a photo I listed on Facebook on one of my pages. Facebook has banned me. I think I get to go back on in maybe 3 days, but they kept banning me consecutively. They said I have a 7-day ban, and then they banned me another 7 days, and then they basically said, you have another 30-day ban. So Facebook has consistently continued to just ban me. And what's interesting about their bans is they banned me for my testimony before the Arizona state legislature. So it's not like they banned me for something I said or I posted an article. No, they banned me for my testimony before the state legislature of Arizona, where I was basically saying what I thought I was saying was doing these things under oath. So here I am testifying before the Arizona state legislature under oath, and they basically said, you are fake news. This is what President Trump would talk about. This is the propaganda that the media likes to espouse. And I just kind of chuckle about it. It's I'm not going to kid you. It's a little aggravating because censorship is alive and well. But I've been working myself off of it. But it just so happens, I have some people ask me, why don't I get off of Facebook already? I have friends and groups between all the different groups that I'm in, like I created, I think I have over 50,000 people that have started to, that started to follow me just in the month of November with what I was posting with regards to politics. And so, I'm going to try to transition them off before I just disappear, because that's a lot of people. And obviously that's a lot of people that felt the same way that I did about what happened in November. And so my view is, might as well try to get them off of a platform that censors all of us, because it's not a very good platform if it's doing that. But anyways, the photo that I have, and I can't seem to see it, Facebook is not letting me see it, dies in the night. It's like, it's a quote by, I think, it's a quote by George Washington, and basically, I think I'm not doing it justice, but there's a photo of him. I think it's at the monument to the unmarked soldier, and it's something along the line that democracy dies in the darkness. That this stuff happens in the middle of the night. It happens when we're not paying attention, when our eyes are closed, and that's the darkness that we need to overcome to fight back the evil that has encompassed us every which way. And I think going back to the story and how it relates to what's happening in the world today, Moses knew and he saw the truth before Christ showed up, right? Because Moses was a prophet before Jesus Christ showed up onto the scene. And he basically saw the reality of the situation, that the Jews were being treated as slaves. The Pharaoh was acting as though he's a god, and that they needed to worship him as well as do whatever the Pharaoh wanted. The Pharaoh, would literally just belittle all the people, saying that they were lazy, they couldn't create more, even though the Pharaoh failed to meet the needs of the people that supposedly he was there to serve. So Um, you know, how does that not sound any different than what we're going through now as a society? You have a bunch of politicians. You have people in you can call them the globalists. You can call them the elites. They are mad that they're reaping what they sowed with regards to the environment, how they created situations for people not to be able to provide for themselves, not to be able to create for themselves, not to have pride for themselves and take care of their families. And as a result of their poor actions, their selfishness, their greed, they're blaming the very people that are suffering the consequences of their evil ways and their lack of respect and their lack of I guess not just respect, but lack of leadership across not just the United States, but worldwide. Folks, this is happening in every nation in the world right now. There's a group of individuals who literally think, when they say masters of the universe, I'm sure you might have seen this on CNBC. Maybe you've heard it in the newspaper. That's not a figure of speech. These people that behave this way, they really believe they are the masters of the universe. And I know they use the word universe and like we think about it scientifically, maybe like all the space and everything. But in their little Peabody minds, they think that they're the masters of everything on this earth, and that what they say goes. And what I would say to that is, the moment people recognize how much power and strength they have on an individual level, and recognize just how evil these comments are on their own, just one of these comments, that nobody would ever do this, that is a decent human being that has a connection to God, that the only way you can ever justify such language is if the individual was pure evil. So the question is, when so many of us can witness this, can hear it, can see it, and can watch these individuals gather together in meetings around the world, basically flaunt all their power and wealth and make these comments with no regard and complete, what's the word? Complete, it's not humility, just complete condescending. I think that's the word I'm looking for. When they look down on everybody else in a very condescending manner, and as though they're inconvenienced by people being here. That is the definition of evil, as far as I'm concerned. These people are evil for doing this. There is no excuse for it. Nobody in their right mind would ever treat other human beings like this. And this goes to show you that maybe they did in fact sell their soul to the devil. And I think the story of Moses with Exodus, with the Pharaoh, this story probably rings true in societies at various times throughout the past 2,000 years. I happen to think that it rings through with more societies right now on Earth than probably previous societies at any one time. So we have more of this taking place simultaneously across this entire planet than we probably have in any time in the past 1 to 2,000 years, because the world is so much more connected, and because these individuals have accrued that much more power, they've become that much more efficient at profiting from various forms of slavery. They call it labor arbitrage, but let's call it what it is. It's slavery. They figure out how to use labor in other nations and take advantage of one group of labor at the expense of another. And they do it with a smile, they do it with a suit, and they do it with a contract. And somehow they think that this will make it just. And it will never be just, and God will judge them accordingly. And this goes right into, I think, Matthew number 18, because I do believe in Matthew 18, God does talk about his judgment of these individuals. 1 second. Wow, I could talk. I can talk a lot, folks. I think I just spoke for about 20 minutes straight. I was a little worried I wouldn't have anything to say. So much for that worry. Like I said, on some of this stuff, folks, I read it, I think about it, I listen to it again before I come on and start talking. But as maybe some of you know or not, I don't have any notes. I don't take notes on this stuff. I think about what I read, and then I kind of let it all flow out. And so I don't know. It just seems to work better for me. The moment I start writing notes, I got to refer to notes. I get tripped up on my own words. So I try to keep it simple. I try to just speak what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, and what I'm sensing from the words as I read them and think about them. So going on to Matthew 18, this is a wonderful story, so to speak. Here, I guess in Matthew 18. And I think we can all probably relate to this if we listen to the words and we think about our own context of life, on an individual basis, as well as our own children, or if we have grandchildren, or we have cousins, if we don't have our own children. But just observing and witnessing the joy of children is what I would say when you kind of read this. Jesus called a little child to him and put the child among them. Then he said, I tell you the truth, unless you turn from your sins and become like little children, you will never get into the kingdom of heaven. So anyone who becomes humble as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf is welcoming me. But if you cause one of these little ones who trust in me to fall to sin, it would be better for you to have a large millstone tied around your neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea. Now, a couple things about this story. Like, even the way this just began, I thought about this, and what I would say is, kind of like when I read this, I couldn't help but think about abortion in this country. That the individuals in our society who would kill and encourage the slaughter of the most innocent among us, how could you ever justify that? What cause or what rationale would ever justify the slaughter of the most innocent human beings among us, unless they were truly collecting the souls of the most innocent in this passage? And these individuals that have done such work and who have encouraged it, from both the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party, the rhinos out there, the Trojan donkeys, the Republicans who are not Republicans. They're just Democrats who have figured out how to use power and get in by lies and deception, because a lot of the Democratic Party has just turned into the party of lies and deception. And they've learned well from their handlers in the CCP. A lot of these individuals in the United States, you can look into that for yourself. They went and trained in basically in China. They go there and they say it's trade relations, but it's not. It's literally going over there to take classes in propaganda, figure out ways to accrue more power and to hold people down. They think they're better than everybody else. And, it fits in with the CCP narrative. And so they're nothing more than agents of a satanic cult. Communism is nothing more than a satanic cult. And the sooner we acknowledge that, recognize it, the sooner we can defeat it. So, Planned Parenthood, it's not Planned Parenthood. I think it's Planned Parenthood. If this organization can slaughter so many lives that are innocent, for all the elderly people in this country that the government, pays any sort of Social Security benefits to, don't be shocked when they try to figure out how to kill elderly people in society. I I basically made an observation, that when this virus hit last year, the people that were most affected were over the age of 65. There's going to be about 300 million or so people in China that will turn over 65 in the next decade. As a result of 300 plus million people in China turning over the age of 65, the corrupt, evil Communist Party of China probably wanted to create some type of way to have these people die. And it didn't want to kill them just outright with a bullet. That would be a little more difficult for the world to accept. So maybe if they can create some type of virus that can kill off their elderly, that would be an effective way to avoid having to pay anything for the people that have served their society and now just wanted to retire, pass their knowledge on to their children and their grandchildren. So the Communist Party is a very evil, satanic regime. And then to make matters worse, there's a country called Italy that opened up into Europe, the One Belt, One Road initiative, which is a very horrible program that was created to allow China to make inroads into Europe, in particular into Italy. Then Italy was the country most affected by this virus in Europe last year. And a lot of senior Italians died, disproportionate number of so. So if you're the Chinese Communist Party and you want to purchase property into Italy and make Italy a staging ground for the rest of Europe to try to conquer Europe through one nation state, then the oldest population in Europe is the Italian people. I think Greece is second, and Greece has had its own slew of problems, if you recall, through all this crap coming in from the Middle East. But in particular, Italy is an important part of undermining Judeo-Christian Western society. If you can take down Rome, you can take down the people of Italy, where a lot of our institutions were formed and that have worked for our civilization, not just in Europe, but worldwide, through a corrupt, evil regime. That would be a really big win. There would be a lot of points on the board if you were the CCP, and they did a lot of damage to the people of Italy. If I was advising the people of Italy as well as the government of Italy, I would highly recommend that they look into the ownership records of any person that was not Italian descent, Italian citizen. I would probably require a DNA test before I allowed any property to change hands in the nation of Italy, unless they were Italian blood, and knock out any of this corruption that attempted to undermine the long-term sovereignty of the nation of Italy in the form of a virus. And that's my 2 cents. I think we need to go back to the real strict basics. We don't go to China. Americans don't go live there. I don't ever have any desire to ever live in China. I think Europeans feel the same way. I think that other nations in Asia feel the same way. I think people in Africa probably feel that way. I think people in South America feel that way. Why? Because China is China. It's nothing to write home about, folks. It's an amoral government. It is a cesspool of corruption, and they have a slave labor force, which unfortunately it's a lot of poor people that have no choice in the matter. They don't have any say. They don't have any weapons to defend themselves. These people shut down a country of almost 1 billion people and treated them like mice in a cage. They locked them up. The people couldn't leave their homes, and they had nothing to do, even though there's like 2,000 or 3,000, maybe 5,000 of these thugs at the top of the government, yet they controlled 1 billion people with absolutely no resistance, and nobody was willing to sacrifice their life to go after and take out these evil people among them. So it's a really sad state of affairs is the way I look at it. So anyways, when I read this story, it definitely stirs up a lot, because I do think that the Chinese were behind a lot of the execution of the most innocent among us in the United States as well as worldwide through their policies. And I think they didn't work in isolation, but they colluded with other extremely evil people that have probably been doing this for hundreds of years prior to this event, in which they used their creativity to create a mass genocide. They can't use the gas chambers. That's not politically correct anymore, folks. So let's try to figure out ways to get people to kill their own and destroy their spirits and make them think that it's good in the process. And by the way, let's figure out how to make a lot of money off of it while they do this. And that's the CCP, and that's the Bush crime family. That's the Clintons. That's the Democratic Party of this country. They're all in on it, folks. They've all been doing this for decades, probably over 50 years. That's the sad reality of it. Anyone who welcomes a little child like this on behalf is welcoming me. But if you cause one of these little ones who trust in me to fall to sin, okay, we kind of talked about this, the millstone. Okay, what sorrow awaits the world because it tempts people to sin? Temptations are inevitable, but what sorrow awaits the person who does the tempting? See, that's the key. Who's the person that does the tempting? So if your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better to enter eternal life with one hand or one foot than to be thrown into eternal fire with both of your hands and feet. And if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better to enter eternal life with one eye than to have two eyes be thrown into the fire of hell. Beware that you don't look down on any of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels are always in the presence of my heavenly Father. I hope that God fulfills this. I have no doubt that God will, and that these individuals that have lived among us for a long time, it's not my place to cast final judgment. It's above my pay grade, as I like to say. If society wants to charge certain individuals that committed crimes against humanity with a punishment that it deems fit and just, I can live with that, folks. But I have no desire in I have no desire, and I think everybody else should feel the same way. It's not our cross to bear. Let God deal with it. Or if we collectively feel that these people have done this much evil, they should be brought to face the consequences that they sowed. They should reap what they sowed by their actions. They shouldn't get a pass. Their families that profited from this, if somebody committed a bunch of crimes and their kids have a bunch of money because of the parents committing the crimes, I'm sorry. You don't necessarily have to hurt the children, but all their money should be taken away. It should be given to the victims, all of it, every last penny. When I hear this crap about reparations, I immigrated here. I'm first generation. I was born here. My parents had nothing to do with slavery. However, if people in this country can prove which families profited as a result of slavery, I'm all for them trying to get restitution. They should petition their government, and they should find out how to get the money from the people that stole it from them, stole their labor, treated them below human standards. And not only should slaves do this, we should seek economic restitution of the criminals that stole the lives and the economic earning power of tens of millions of Americans. We should just literally look at it. We should create economic justice tribunals, look at what these individuals did, that they committed crimes in the name of so-called globalism, and we should bring them to justice. And we should take their assets, if they committed these economic crimes, and hand them over to the people that were damaged, the lives that were lost, the people committed suicide, or their businesses were closed because of corruptness that just spread across the upper echelons of our society. That's my 2 cents. But who the heck knows if anything like that will ever happen. But I do think that would be just. Okay. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others on the hill and go out to search for the one that is lost? And when he finds it, I tell you the truth, he will rejoice more over that one than the 99 that didn't wander away. It's the same way my heavenly Father will it's the same way. It's not my heavenly Father's will that even one of these little ones should perish. Now, if you think about it, um, there's a lot of things in the military. There's a lot of sayings in various organizations, institutions in our society. No one gets left behind, and you know, the power of regret is a very powerful motivator in all of us, in human beings. If you know that you could have done something to save somebody's life and you didn't, um, I don't know how long you would be able to tolerate living with yourself. I think it would destroy your spirit, destroy who you are as a person. It's better to step up and do the right thing, because if you lose your life in this physical form, at least your spirit still carries on. And I think that's the whole point of this story, that we, as a society, I think there's far more than one sheep that's lost. I think we have maybe dozens of sheep that are lost, and that we all need to step up. And if we're not lost and we feel that we know what we need to do, we know how we can make a difference, we need to all step up and bring those sheep that are lost back into the fold and do our part, first on a family level, and then possibly outside of groups or extended family. And I think that if we do that, we will help restore sanity and start to stamp out this evil, because we'll expose more people to the truth of what is evil if we help those that have truly lost their way. If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses, you have won that person back. But if you are unsuccessful, take 2 others with you and go back. So everything you say is confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. If that person still refuses, then take your case to the church. Then if he won't accept the church's decision, treat the person as a pagan or corrupt tax collector. I tell you the truth, whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven, and whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. I also tell you this, if you 2 agree on earth concerning anything you ask, my Father will do it for you. For where there are 2 or 3 followers gathering, I am there among them. It's a really powerful story, because sometimes you think you know what's right, and I think we all intrinsically have an idea of what we think is right. But if you talk to 1, 2, 3 other people that you believe in their grounding, their upbringing, their sense of righteousness or values, and you all come to a uniform consensus of what's fair and what's right, there's a lot of power in that. Now, don't get swayed by when everybody agrees to do something that's wrong. There's a different feeling. Sometimes people will be persuaded to step in and do something that's wrong because it's maybe they benefit from what was done wrong. But deep down inside, in your core, you'll probably know and sense that something's wrong, something's off, it feels amiss. And you should know the difference. In one situation, you feel energized and you feel like you're doing something to help bring justice to the world. And the other one, you feel ashamed. So if you feel ashamed, and you have a bunch of people agreeing with you, you're still going to be ashamed. Let's not dilute that reality. But now, if you do something where it's difficult, it's hard, but you know that it's the right thing to do, and you feel energized, and I know this sounds a little crazy, but if you feel like if you lost your life doing it, if something happened to you and you were no longer here as a result of doing the right thing, the just thing, and you didn't mind, not that you want to go anytime soon, nobody really does, but you wouldn't have any regrets. That's the key. If you can do something that could possibly hurt you, and you still do it anyways because you don't want to live with the regret because it's the right thing to do, then it is just and it is righteous. And you should know the difference between shame and righteousness by your actions. And I do believe that that has a huge impact on how you structure your life. I think that, there is a side of things that have happened across this country in the past few months. I think there's a lot of people that probably feel, some of the same ways that I feel, that what's the point of continuing to witness all this evil take place in this world without even trying to do something about it? It's one thing if you lose your life and something bad happens to you, but you at least tried. You went down swinging, and you tried to do the right thing, versus you didn't step up when evil showed up. The evil ended up killing you anyways, and you're dead. So you have two scenarios. One is you lose your life because evil just overwhelms everything, takes over everything that we see around us. And the other one is evil is showing up. You're putting your life on the line. You might be killed, but at least you're going to maybe prevent that evil from spreading into everything else. I don't know about you, but it's a no-brainer. I'd rather pick the one in which I'd rather fight and die by trying to prevent evil than waiting and cowering and trying to hide and hope that evil doesn't see me as it flows through the land. And I think there's a lot to be said about the stories in Egypt about that very topic, about evil, about them marking the homes for the firstborn sons, that there's a lot of connections between that we're living through right now. Okay, so let's go to Psalms 22. O Lord, do not stay far away. You are my strength. Come quickly to my aid. Save me from the sword. Spare my precious life from these dogs. Snatch me from the lion's jaws and from the horns of the wild oxen. I will proclaim your name to my brothers and sisters. I will praise you among your assembled people. Praise the Lord, all you who fear him. Honor him, all the descendants of Jacob. Show him reverence, all you descendants of Israel. For he has not ignored or belittled the suffering of the needy. He has not turned his back on them, but he has listened to their cries for help. I will praise you in the great assembly. I will fulfill my vows in the presence of those who worship you. The poor will eat and be satisfied. All who seek the Lord will praise him. The hearts will rejoice with everlasting joy. The whole earth will acknowledge the Lord and return to him. All the families of the nations will bow down before him. For royal power belongs to the Lord. He rules all the nations. Let the rich of the earth feast and worship. Bow before him, all who are mortal, all whose lives will end at dust. Our children will also serve him. Future generations will hear about the wonders of the Lord. His righteous acts will be told to those not yet born. They will hear about everything he has done. And, when I think about this psalm and I think about the Lord and the things that the Lord does, part of this whole story, for me, at least when I listen to it, if we're all children of God and Jesus Christ is the Son of God, if you really believe that for a moment, that we're all children of God and Jesus is the Son of God, but he's the first, right? That's the key. Jesus is the first. And I do believe he's the actual Son of God, right? I do believe that. I used to think that it was just a representation, personally. I used to think that he was the first to recognize that we're all children of God, and maybe it was a figurative thing. Since he was the first, it's kind of like Descartes. I think, therefore I am. Descartes gets credit for our ability to use our brain to think, like in terms of that connection from a philosophical perspective. But then I later realized that Jesus Christ wasn't just saying it because it sounded cute. like Jesus really was the Son of God. And, he was here in physical form, and he really was, period, the first, he was literally the living God in human form, which is pretty wild when you come to that realization. I hope everybody does at some point. But when you come to that realization that Jesus Christ was truly It wasn't just a figurative thing, but literal. And for the Son of God to tell everybody and tell us that we're all children of God and we're made in God's image, you can't help but think, hey, I'm brothers with God. I'm brothers with Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I'm made in the image of God. Jesus Christ, says we're all children of God. Hell, that makes us all brothers and sisters. A sister of Jesus Christ is a sister of God. And so, when I think about that saying, I think about that, from a philosophical perspective, and I think about this story, Jesus is basically calling on us to behave the way he did, the way Jesus behaves. And we all have a responsibility to step up and try to live a righteous life, to do the right thing, to show strength in times of difficulty in this world, to basically do the things that we know we need to do. And I think that we need to be the embodiment of Christ, is what I'm basically getting at. If you believe that Jesus Christ, if you really believe he's the Son of God, and you believe what the Bible is saying, that we're all children of God, then that means we're all siblings of God. And the story of Joseph with his brothers didn't feel worthy. His brothers were envious of Joseph. Joseph did great things, but even after Joseph did great things, he still loved his brothers, and he never, tried to retaliate for them for their failings. And he wanted them to thrive and do great things as well. So if you think of the story of Joseph and his brothers, in some respects, a Pharaoh was viewed as a god. Joseph is the closest thing to God on earth in terms of his position of power next to the Pharaoh. His siblings were like the children of God because they both had the same parents. They were both blessed, by I guess Abraham, Isaac, and then Joseph. And so there's a huge connection between all those stories to where we are. And so we as a people, we as individuals, and being children of God, I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to Jesus. We owe it to our brother in spirit, Jesus Christ, are also our God. It's a very interesting dynamic because it's like a duality that we live through. We have this duality of Jesus Christ as Son of God. We're children of God, but we're not really on equal standing. Like, we don't get to call the shots. But meanwhile, we're all made in God's image, and then we're expected to try to live up to that higher standard and do great things on this earth the way Jesus Christ would. So anyways, that's my takeaway from that story. And I do think that, I think that might be something interesting for everybody to think about, if you agree. Maybe if you don't agree, you say, Bobby, I don't know what the hell you were drinking tonight, but drinking or smoking, right? So some people smoke instead of drink to get some different perspectives on life. But anyways, Proverbs number 5. I happen to have a massage tonight. My wife set one up for me, which is pretty a nice little surprise. So I'm feeling pretty good. I was feeling festive yesterday. Today I'm feeling really relaxed, and so it was good. Anyways, Proverbs 5. Drink water from your own well. Share your love only with your wife. Oh, this is a really good one too, by the way, folks. Why spill the water of your springs in the streets, having sex with just anyone? You should reserve it for strangers. Never share it with strangers. Let your wife be a fountain of blessing for you. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. She is a loving deer, a graceful doe. Let her breast satisfy you always. May you always be captivated by her love. Why be captivated, my son, by an immoral woman, or fondle the breast of a promiscuous woman? For the Lord sees clearly what a man does, examining every path he takes. Okay. It's pretty funny that I just heard this today. I was just talking to my son about this today. So my 17-year-old son, he's 16, he'll be 17 in a couple of months. My wife was at the office doing something still. I'm sitting there with my 2 daughters, and I was on the phone with a friend of mine. And anyways, so this conversation I had today ties into Proverbs 5. So I'm going to share it with you because I think it's kind of interesting, and maybe the Lord works in mysterious ways about this story. So, and I want to kind of say a couple other things at the very end, and I'm sorry I didn't say it a little sooner, but I want to make sure I say something to clarify a couple comments I made yesterday or the day before. Okay. So I'm talking to my son, or not my son, I'm talking to my friend. I said, it's a very interesting experience I'm going through. It's a little weird. Um, the past few months, people kind of asked, what was I doing before? I'm like, look, I'm just like any other American. I'm just trying to do the right thing, live my life. I love what I do. I love my family. I try to keep it simple. Try not to do anything stupid, get in any kind of trouble, just a bunch of basic things, you just try to do stuff that you don't want to embarrass yourself or your family. That's usually a good gut check. Just don't do anything that if everybody found out you did it, you would be embarrassed. And if you kind of follow that rule in life, it'll keep you out of a lot of trouble. Now, keep in mind, you should have your own moral compass anyways, but I'm just saying that the moment you feel like, maybe pushing the envelope a little bit, that's a really good reminder. So one of the things that I've kind of observed with this extra attention that I'm not used to, some of it sometimes makes me feel uncomfortable, and it makes me feel uncomfortable because I really do believe we're all children of God. I think that what I'm doing I think it's nice, and from the standpoint that I think I am stepping up. God asked me to do some things, but I do believe that all of us can step up. So I don't think there's anything unique in my ability to step up with my particular skill set. Somebody else with a different skill set would step up and do something great with their skill set. And I really do believe that. It's not just a figure of speech for me. Everybody has something unique. Everybody has a unique brain, unique existence, a unique set of experiences. They're the culmination of a lot of perfect things that have shaped them into who they are. This is what I believe, folks. And, it may sound funny to people, but I really do believe that everybody's life and who the person that they are at this particular moment in time is perfection, period. As painful as their life might have been, it's still perfect for who they are right now. That's who they are is shaped by all those events. The question is, what are they going to do with it? That's up to them to decide. And maybe if they pray and ask God, maybe God will help them along the way. And so I really do believe that. And so when I kind of hear some of these comments, I'm appreciative of some of the compliments, but at the same time, I'm like, that's wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you. But you're also unbelievably talented and gifted in what you're doing. And, unfortunately, the way the world is set up, this is what I'm thinking, by the way, I don't always say this. Unfortunately, the world is set up where it's hard for people to express and show just how special they are. And I think that's a failing on us as a society, that we need to come up with better tools, better ways of allowing people to express and show how special they are to others in their community, others in their family, in a way that garners the respect that every single one of us deserves. And I've been giving this a lot of thought, folks, and I've been trying to think about how to work on designing software or designing something to really highlight these skills and uniqueness, because I do believe the technology is there to pull this off. And I think it would really be, I think it would really make the world a far better place if more people could feel appreciated, and as appreciated as they really are. But at times, it's not reflected because of shortcomings of our society. So if somebody doesn't feel appreciated in this life, I wouldn't blame themselves. I wouldn't, You should never blame yourself for this thing. This is a shortcoming of how we might have designed systems that undermine how special each of us is truly, and God would have it that way. I do believe that, and so hopefully, the more people turn back to God, read the Bible, pray, follow the righteous path, the more people will realize that each of us is really that special and unique, and express it through words, through actions, through deeds, through breaking bread, etc. And I think that's an extremely powerful thing. So going back to Proverbs number 5, one of the things I kind of told my friend today is, as this is all kind of happening, and I think the world works in weird ways, so to speak, at times. Throughout my life, at times, just like anybody else, people will get tempted, I guess you can say, to sin in different ways, and sometimes people will express interest, etc. Right? I'm talking about people that are, like this story here. People might be tempted to cheat and so forth. And so, I happen to be 45 years old, and I've had some interesting experiences in my life. Maybe over time I'll share some of these other experiences that I've had, but that's another story. But what I will say is that I know what my commitment is to my wife, and I know I have my commitment to my children. And sometimes when things are kind of tempting, like this, being of flesh, being a human, when different people that you meet, or people, you get different types of attention and so forth. We all get it. We all get different types of attention, of course, in the course of like who we run across in life. And people that are married know what I'm talking about, maybe more than people that are single. And sometimes it's like, oh, that's nice. That person made me feel special. But sometimes people kind of overstep the line. So it's kind of like, okay, what causes people to overstep the line? That's, I think, what the story is about. It's like, when did people cheat? And why do they cheat? And, what should you do to prevent the desire, or the the possibility of cheating? And what I would say is, what I like to do the moment I feel like, wow, that would be really nice, I wonder, it'd be maybe fun to have fun with that person, kind of thing, and I don't have these thoughts very often, folks. I'm just kind of telling you hypothetical here. But when these thoughts kind of bubble up, or something arises, and it's like, oh wow, that'd be kind of interesting to see what it would be like to date someone like that, then the reality comes right back in, which is, yeah, that's not happening in this lifetime, Bobby. It's over. Like, you have your wife, you have your kids. And so the way I try to keep myself in check when any of these thoughts enter into my mind, even for a split second, okay, I just think of, what is it, what I'm about to say, what I say it in front of my kids, what I say it in front of my wife. And if the answer is no, I would never say that to another woman in front of my wife. I would never say that to another woman in front of my children. Then I already know the answer. But, that being said, if I see a beautiful woman that is, is particularly, taking care of her way in which she carries herself in the world, she's confident, she's, she carries herself with a certain grace. She's a beautiful human being. She's trying, she's doing all the things she can to enjoy this journey through life. I've stopped plenty of women and just said, you are absolutely beautiful for the way you're going through life. And I've said it in front of my kids, and I've said it in front of my wife. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because I don't expect anything in return. It's when somebody says things like that and they want something back, that's when it becomes a problem, folks. But this concept of paying compliments, you look really good today. Your hair looks awesome. I don't have a problem with it. I think what's happened in society is people are afraid to say things that are sincere as compliments because there's so many people that abuse that sincerity. And I don't have any problem expressing my views like that, because I know what my line is. I know that I'm not willing to cross that line. And I think that if people kind of knew what their line was and started to pay compliments to people like that, I think it would make the world just a happier place to be in. Everybody likes to feel special. And if we all helped make other people feel special without the expectation that we should get anything in return, that's the key. If you're sincere and you want people to feel special, but you don't expect anything back, how could anybody ever lose in that equation? Nobody should, nobody should lose. Love is infinite, and that's a form of showing love. You love your life. You love what you're seeing, what you're witnessing, what you have the privilege of being part of. And I think that we need to go back to that. But this story also reminds us, don't cross the line. Don't, just because you want to be loving doesn't mean you need to be doing anything other than just being appreciative and loving. It's a fine line. So I think if you know what your boundaries are, and you respect the sanctity of your marriage or your relationship, if you're in a relationship and you're not married, and you respect the impact that could have on your children if you did something you shouldn't do, I think you're in good shape. And the moment you have any of those other doubts, run the calculation, folks. Don't do it. It's not worth it. And if the moment you think that you should do it, then you really need to call into question whether or not you should be married to the person you're married to. Yeah, you need to have a really long talk with God as well as that person and figure out if you should move on, because it's not fair to them. It's not fair to yourself, and sure as heck isn't fair to God and anybody else who gets thrown into this mix. So anyways, going blurry again. What's going blurry, folks? I'm not sure what that means, Angie. Am I blurry? Or is that song? Everything's so blurry. I don't know. I forgot who sings that. There's a song, I think, Blurry. Okay. Well, look, I've been going for an hour. Is there anything, is there anything that people want to ask me before I chime out here? It's a Friday. It's 9:33. There's 33 people on right now. 33 happens to be one of my favorite numbers, and so, if anybody has any questions, otherwise, I guess we can all call it. And I don't know, I guess as they say, hit the head or watch them. I'm going to probably go watch a little TV. I like to just kind of wind down with some TV. There was a good movie I saw yesterday. What's it called? It's which one? Crazy Stupid Love. Yeah, Crazy Stupid Love. Yeah, that's actually it was a pretty good movie. Crazy. I really like that movie, Crazy Stupid Love. It was an interesting story, and it's cute. It's a cute movie. I think it came out in 2011 or 12. And anyways, the guy from The Office is in there. Was that Steve Carell? Yeah, Steve Carell was in there. He's a really funny actor. But you guys should check it out. I think it's on Netflix. Anyways, I think, I don't know if there's anything else. Anybody else want to say anything? Otherwise, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Thank you for chiming in. God bless you. God bless your family and friends. May God continue to bless the greatest nation in the history of the world. And may peace be with you. And if you don't have peace, I do believe that if you put God first, peace will most definitely find you. And Yeah, I have a thank you. Thank you, Dallas. And I did thank my wife for getting me the massage. It was actually it was good. I got an extra 30 minutes in because the therapist that saw me tonight couldn't do a massage on a pregnant woman. And since my wife is pregnant, she had to reschedule. So I got an extra 30 minutes out of this deal too. So that was pretty nice. Uh, you know, we can't always get these pleasant surprises like that. But anyways, God bless everybody and have a wonderful evening. I love you all and have a wonderful evening. And thanks again for chiming in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.